Hi friends, host Eric here, and I'd like to call this video how your top introverted function determines the arc of your individualism, basically, and what kind of life progression you're likely to have in terms of the things that provide you weight, significance, problems, identity, philosophy, whatever else. So, I think it's the introverted functions. This whole topic came to mind because the other day I was talking with Kimberly about existential terror. Existential terror is something I get when I become abruptly aware of the passage of time, the scope of the change, the manner in which the assumed permanent reality of the now that was once before, it no longer is. So, and it links in with forgetting and remembering somehow. I remember when Lacey died, I had this moment where I knew that it was critically important for me that God damn it, I'm going over here. It was critically important for me to not ever forget that she was dead. That it would be too terrifying and awful to operate in a world where I was lost in my head, going about my business, not thinking about other things, and did ideation of some kind based on the assumption that she was alive, having forgotten that she had died. So, I think it's fair to say that this is an SI matter, and it's an SI matter in a couple of ways, because it reminds me of how FI does something similar. The person who has FI as their top introverted function is going to face a life whereby things that make them feel bad add weight. Things that make them feel good add another kind of weight, although it's a preferable kind. And so the FI person understands that having emotional experiences generates a heaviness about you that grows over time. Now, I'm not quite sure how this plays out for FISE, or ISFP, except to say that they too have a sense of they're not afraid to die. They don't think at a top level value should be to live as long as possible, because on an NI kind of way, they understand that time equals weight in terms of ontology. So the same thing with SI. Time equals weight. There's a bittersweet quality to reflecting on one's own time past and experiences in life and stuff, as is comprised of things that almost entirely of things that no longer are as you get older. When you're young, you're, at least for me, I had no good awareness of how I would relate to things that no longer were once they no longer were, because everything seemed so permanent, and I never felt as though that I had to worry about stuff I wasn't paying attention to right now. This is the nature of ENTPs, but you'll notice that for me, TI is the highest introvert function, it's second. Everybody's got an introvert function as 1 or 2. So, alright, so FI and SI, they both have this bittersweet quality to them. An SI person finds the nature of themselves and their true identity in keeping track of things. Keeping track of things necessarily means not just keeping track of things that are now, but keeping track of what's happened before. And that means noting the changes to it as well. So there's this quality of loss implicit in keeping track of things necessarily. Just as there's a quality of weight in emotionally engaging with things necessarily. And for the other two introverted functions, introverted intuition and introverted thinking, they kind of have the opposite effect. So there's a quality of determinism or fatalism that goes along with NI, and there's a quality of detachment or pointlessness that goes along with TI. And that's where your actualization areas are, these four, whatever your top level introverted function is. Your top introverted function is going to give you a lot of information about the manner in which you will suffer, the manner in which you will rejoice, the manner in which you will experience despair, the manner in which you will experience lack or seeking, all that kind of stuff. Because over the course of a life, you're going to pick up the weight that goes along with these habits. And the kind of weight that you pick up and have to carry thereafter is going to be contingent upon the kind of attentional manner that you basically overuse. Because we're talking about a 1-2, we're talking about our imbalances. We're saying, I am balanced in favor of these things, or I unbalance in favor of these things. And that lack of balance over time puts wear and tear on you ontologically, in the same way that unbalanced tires put increasing wear and tear on tires, or the way that not having enough oil in an engine or too much oil in an engine will make it break down faster over time. Of course, there's no examples of people that don't have this approach to attention. Namely, there are no examples of people who don't have a default, who use them all equally and all that. So, it's not so much that anybody is over being a cognitive function as it is that over being a cognitive function is implicit in the human experience. And that because we're human, we have a shelf life. And it's not just a physical shelf life, it's a metaphysical shelf life. I think for some types, their metaphysical shelf life and their physical shelf life are about equivalent, and for others, not so much. I think that TI people, especially if they're TI intuitives, probably would like to have a longer shelf life as a physicality before they're going to feel as though they've really experienced all life has to offer, or something like that, or are ready to be done. But I don't know, I'm not 100 years old. Ask me in 50 years. I'll have a lot of more weight by then, I'm sure. Things are weighty regardless for everybody on some or more levels. The thing is, the TI weight, second function TI, the ESTP's and ENTP's experience is that hollowness, that sense of, now what? Okay, well that was fun. I did enjoy myself when I wasn't aware of the vast emptiness of space. But now I'm not playing and I'm aware of it again. Boo, boo, boo. That's for ESTPs and ENTPs, you know. But the point is that what kind of, where you need in order to feel realized is determined by that. So NI, that determinism, that fatalism, that comes from, because if you think about it, introverted intuition is knowing the best course given the fact that this approximation that I have in my understanding of the world as an NI user of the processes in the system allow me to successfully anticipate where this element will be on a week from now or whatever. But of course, that's great, but it assumes, it relies on the fact that in some sense it maximizes your agency, because you know, if you take this action, it's going to have this impact in this time frame, but in some other sense, it makes yourself pointless and irrelevant, because after all, you're subject to these same kind of things, and it's the SI problem. You don't have that sense of experience carrying with it the weight of time and of loss, because that's just part of the way the world works. And if everything's just part of the way the world works, and you're just part of the way the world works, then, and you don't really matter, and there's billions of people around, and you know, the stories we tell about ourselves, quote unquote, or our silly self-indulgences, and yada yada yada, then you're gonna feel a sense of pointlessness. So ESP makes you feel hollowness, as I would call it, emptiness, but INFJ, or ENFJ might very well feel a sense of pointlessness, which is different than emptiness or hollowness, right? It's like there's no reason to bother doing any of this stuff, because, especially for INFJ, because see, with the ENFJ, with their polar SI, they have this almost, they have this same sort of blessed blindness to the self that, say, a retarded person has towards their own retardation. Retarded people typically, depending on the level of retardation, of course, don't have an active awareness of their own retardation because they're retarded. Well, same thing with ENFJs and ENTJs. They don't have an active sense of themselves as a combination animal and metaphysical beings. They think themselves entirely metaphysical, or for ENTJs, they think themselves entirely agents of affecting physical change through their metaphysics. They don't see themselves as physical beings. And so they don't feel the existential terror of loss of time in the fashion that SI users do. They don't feel the detachment, the way that attachment and the emptiness or the hollowness of things, the way the TI does. They don't experience the emotional weight of things very much, the way that FI users do. That's ignoring for ENFJs. And they don't experience, I'm talking about ENFJs here. ENTJs are they have a little bit more going for them. I mean, ENFJs are the most tragic type by far, because they've got no link to their physical selves, really. The only link they have is their aspirational or scorecard for themselves, which is doing shit, implementing change in the physical world. It has no metaphysical link back to their identity, though, except as something they use as an FE chit. And I've never seen anything like the insanely blind SI of an ENFJ. They don't take care of themselves at all, and they've got no concept of maintaining themselves as an interested entity that's interested to themselves across time. They see the time factors in other people and their relations to other people, but they don't understand those in terms of themselves. So, you know, they may make, they may make some crazy mistakes. They're bad with money. They get into, I think Kanye West is an ENFJ. Anyway, that's how I know you don't have any of those physicalities. If the only link to physicality you have is extroverted, then you're an ENFJ. I think everybody else has. Well, no, I guess that's ESTP. ESTP, ISTP, ENFJ, and INFJ. The only link to physicality they have in the conscious stack is extroverted sensing. The most non-metaphysical of any function possibilities. So, as a consequence, they're the worst off because they're the polar SI with the third slot SE, the first slot FE, the second slot NI, and the fourth slot TI. I think somebody else will provide detachment, a detached, objective, cool, disinterested analysis of things. And so they're not good at that themselves. They do shit, that's true. They affect change, and they do generally a good job of managing perceptions, provided they don't end up prioritizing the SE aspects of things at the expense of the FE, which is they often do. So, you know, they'll do the things they want to do and feel good about having accomplished the doing thing. And sometimes that'll blow up social relations and stuff like that. Despite being FE DOMs, it'll work for a while because it's not like they even, yes, they're manipulative, but it's more like they can't conceive of other people as individuals either. Just like they can't conceive of themselves as particular things. Everything is always an example of some universal, even when it's not. So they're the only type that has it that bad, because like ESTPs have SI in the 8th slot. I mean, SI in the 5th slot, not the 7th. And ISTPs, you know, have it in the 6th slot, not the 7th. Alright, so that's what I'm talking about in this video.